Here's a strange thought. Your great-great-grandmother never owned a clock. She never saw a Monday, neither did she ever hear of January. And yet, she was never late for anything that mattered. The market found her ready. Planting seasons, found her really prepared, and even festivals found her present. So now, let me ask this very serious question, and this question is what this entire episode is all about. When we changed the way we measure time, did we also change the way we live? This question plagues me every day, and I hope it starts plaguing you also today. Welcome to Through the Veil. I'm Ralu Chukuma. Not everything forgotten is lost. Every generation believes he understands the world better than the one before it. We have more technology, more information, more convenience. But have we also forgotten something? This is a journey into African history, forgotten civilizations, philosophy, archaeology, spirituality, culture, and the timeless questions that continue to shape who we are. Together, we'll separate myths from history, tradition from evidence, and assumptions from truth, because sometimes the greatest discoveries are not new, they are simply remembered. This is episode 4 of Through the Veil, and today we're talking about time itself. Let's start with something that most of us have never questioned. The calendar on your wall, the one on your phone, where did it come from? Well, I have the answer. Please, that's one question I can answer today. Most times I just keep the answer, unanswered up until we start having subject matter experts where I can really drill them on some of these questions and get answers to it. However, between now and then, I think what's most important for us to do is keep asking these questions and keep learning together. I'll do my research, tell you what I think, put out my opinions, and then see what yours are in the comment section over time. And then we just figure this out together. Well, from research, time came from Rome. In the year 45 BC, Julius Caesar reformed the Roman calendar, forgive me, not Catholic, the Roman calendar, into what we call the Julian calendar. It was 12 months. Names were borrowed from Roman gods and Roman rulers. January for Janus, which is a two-faced god, god of doorways, according to them. And March was for Mars and the god of war. July was named after Julius Caesar himself. August was for Julius Caesar's son, Augustus. And then in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII adjusted it because the Julian calendar had drifted about 10 days out of line, with the sun. That correction gave us, what we have today, the Gregorian calendar, and it's still running in our lifetime today. Now think about that. The calendar governing your birthdays, your deadlines, your school terms in Oka, Lagos, Africa, wherever you are in the world, apart from Ethiopia, is a papal edict from the 16th century built on politics of ancient Rome. It's not yours, it's someone else's regular calendar that has nothing to do with the stars as much as we would like it to be. And then we now have 7 days a week, there's nothing in nature that comes in sevens. Go research it, go check, right? No celestial body completes a cycle in 7 days. 7 days a week comes from ancient Babylon and the Hebrew scriptures. It's an inherited, convention. As powerful and useful it is, but it's just, convention. There's nothing natural about it. And sometimes I ask myself that question, and when you look at it, you see there's so much disalignment, especially here in Africa, based on time, in my own opinion. I don't know about you. So now let's delve into, this, a little bit deeper, right? So we all know about time zones, right? And then the idea of the whole planet, is synchronized with watches because we have time, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and all of that. This time zone of a thing was, decided in 1884 at the National Meridian Conference in Washington, D.C., where 26 nations agreed that time itself would be measured from Greenwich in London. Notice, who was in that room? Just think about it. Just think about it for a second. Who was in the room? 26 countries, right? And then deciding for the whole world how time would be calculated with watches. This system works, right? The clock has given time and given humanity, this extraordinary gift where we can actually look at time. So I have no problem with watches, and I have no problem with time, the way it's calculated today in that sense, because it's really helpful in terms of scheduling things, being able to have deadlines, things you want to meet, calculating, just our everyday life, basically. But what I'm here to tell you is that, there's something history books, rarely says out loud, that before time, and before the clock arrived on our shores, we already had a system, a fully complete one. And when Europeans came and they could not, read, our own system, they wrote their own reports about, how Africans conceptualized time, basically, and they were completely wrong. They had no idea, because this is something that, is deeper than they could ever imagine. Well, let's bring you home now and talk about the way we saw time and how our own time was calculated. In traditional Igbo civilization, our week doesn't have 7 days. It has 4 days. Eke, Ore, Afo, Nkwo. 4 days, 1 week. In Igbo, we call it Izu. Now, like I said in the previous episode, I tried to explain the accuracy of time, in ancient times in Igbo land. And like I said, 60 seconds make a minute, 60 minutes make an hour, 24 hours make a day, 4 days make a week, right? 7 weeks make a month, and 13 months make a year, all calculated to the T, right? And then if you calculate all of this, we had 364 days, and then one spare day that it was used as, for festivals, marking like a new year. And then the year starts again, first day of a new year starts, which is around, April-ish, I guess. You can also confirm, but the new year starts around April-ish. And that's how our forefathers actually, kept the time. Now, these days are not just labels like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Each day is a market day. And across Igbo land till this very day, and towns and villages still hold their market days on designated days. So, for instance, you could go to a village and their market day is on Nkwo day. So, still the ancient calendar being used till today, right? Oral tradition tells us that these 4 market days were brought by 4 divine messengers, and different communities tell their own stories differently. That part is tradition, not documentation. And on this show, we always try to keep these two things very separate. Want to be able to know what's evidence, want to know what's tradition, and we like to handle both of them as separate issues. Definitely for credibility, I need to add that part also. But here's what's documented, right? And this is, where things become really remarkable. 7 of these 4-day weeks would make a month, like I said, which is referred to as Onwa. 4 times 7 is equal to 28, so 28 days. And notice the word Onwa. In Igbo, Onwa means month, and Onwa also means moon, the same word, because the Igbo month is a lunar month, right? Everything is calculated based on lunar cycles rather. Our ancestors' calendar was written in the sky as opposed to written on books and screens. And when the new moon appeared, you did not need an app to tell you that, you're in a new month or a new month had begun. You just look up into the sky and you know what's going on. And that's how they were able to tell time. Now, just to go a level higher than what has just been said, the 13 of these months make a year, which is Afo. The year is called Afo. And 13 months of 28 days, like I calculated earlier, that's 364 days, with traditions of an extra adjustment day to keep the year aligned with the seasons. So let that sink in. Like I said, 4 days a week, perfect, regular 28 days calendars, not 28 or 29 in February or 30 in some months and 31 in some months, but perfect 28-day months for 13 straight months. Every year, similar, complete, absolute perfection. And I can't stress that enough, because when we look at God and creation, there's perfection in God and creation. There's no everything is perfect. Like every single thing is like mathematically accurate. And the fact that you already know that the Gregorian calendar has the months all over the place with the days, that is a clear indication that something is wrong somewhere. And maybe that is the reason why the life that we live today is kind of. So think about it this way. We are used to saying time is money, right? That's what time has been brought down to. However, to our ancient kings, time was more of rhythm, not money. Time was cycle. It was part of their life. It was life. It was season. They were able to adjust. There was a time to rest, time for festivals, a time for planting, a time for harvest. That's how time was, right? It was everything that, they didn't need clocks to know that it was morning. They had the chicken outside, and then they saw the sunrise, and then that's, that's morning. So completely different times. However, accuracy is the key point here. In the 20th century, Western reformers looked at the chaos of the Gregorian calendar and proposed a fix, actually. It was called the International Fixed Calendar. 13 months, 28 days, each, every month identical. But, one of the most powerful men in America at the time, George Eastman, the founder of Kodak, was also convinced that, by logic, Kodak, the company, actually ran its internal business on 13 months calendar. So it's not just an ancient thing. Even, most recently, Westerners are also trying to go back to what we already knew. So for those of us that always would see what the Westerners do as law, right? The other day I saw this traditional medicine, and I took a picture of the ingredients used to make it. And I decided to take it to ChatGPT just to ask it, okay, what are, because it had botanical names on it, and I don't know any of these botanical names. So I'm trying to understand with ChatGPT, what are the meaning of these botanical names, and what kind of vitamins do they have? Are they antibiotic, anti-inflammatory and things like that, just to kind of have an idea. And then also took a picture of what the medicine was supposed to heal, or what it was supposed to solve. And I tell ChatGPT, so based on this ingredients and what it's supposed to solve with your own knowledge that you can gather, tell me if this actually like matches up to what it's supposed to be. And it's sad that we'll have to do that. But then the response from ChatGPT really blew my mind, because it basically said these things are based on what the herbs or the medicine is supposed to cure. Yeah, these ingredients have the vitamins or the nutrients that are antibiotic, anti-inflammatory, and all whatnot that could solve these problems. However, because it is not scientifically proven by the white man, right, then it's BS, or you can't really you have to meet your doctor. So that blows your mind. If it should blow my own mind, I don't know about you, but then you ask that question: why do I have to take permission from the white man before I take medicine? The white man has to endorse what our own findings. Why do they have to endorse what is ours? So they come in with the Gregorian calendar. They change our entire system of time and seasons and how we calculate things. Completely disorient us as much as they could. And then they now want to reinitiate, that which they said, theirs was better than. And this is not just about time. This is not just about the calendar. This is basically about so many things that we even see today, right? We look at places and you're talking about using clay to build today because it's good for environment, right? But yeah, we're doing that. We're not doing anything to damage the ozone layer. We're not doing anything against nature. We're living at one with nature. And then all of a sudden, right, we are getting sanctions as to carbon emissions and things like that all of a sudden. But even in a continent that emits the least emissions or carbon emissions in the world, right, we get to hear people preach to us about still reducing. I think it makes up about 3% or something, if not lower, of all the emissions in the world. And, we're still being preached to date. These are the things that we really need to change. And we'll get into that in the next section. Now, Chinua Achebe also understood this very deeply. So if you've read Arrow of God, published in 1964, We remember Ezulu, the chief priest, whose sacred duty was to watch, each of the new moons, and then eat one sacred yam per month, 13 yams, 13 moons, and things like that. So if you've read Arrow of God, if you've not read it, please do. And Chinua Achebe is one of those writers, Igbo writers, that really help us picture the world before the white man and kind of helps us paint that picture that we can see in our head that our forefathers lived. So, I've always been big on Chinua Achebe and his books. Well, so our ancestors basically did not lack, the concept of time. They had their different concept of time. Time is reading. It's not just a line. Time is something that you belong to, not something that you spend, right? Their concepts were completely different from how we see time. Like I said, time today is seen as money, which is completely wrong. Everything we see today is all money, 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 money. Now, I need to say something, clearly before we go through this next door, because credibility is everything that I'm all about on this podcast. So but what I'm trying to share now is it's not a universal Igbo doctrine. It is not written in stone. And it's just a cosmological framework preserved in the teachings of Ordinary. The traditional Igbo spiritual system, spirituality, however you choose to put it. And it's expounded by Dibias, custodians, and modern students of this tradition, including the legendary Dibia and scholar John Anenechukwu Ume of the University of Nigeria, who documented much of this sacred knowledge in his 2-volume work, After God is Dibia. This concept is very interesting, and it opens our eye more clearer to what time is, this construct, and what we're living through today. So, there are different schools of thought, like I said, but what I'm trying to present now is an influential framework, right? We're not trying to see it as settled history yet. I think over time, I think we need to have more of these conversations and even more gatherings and congregations to really discuss Igbo cosmology, Igbo spirituality, Igbo philosophy, to kind of make sense of it, to have, things that we hold onto as doctrine, if for lack of better words to use. Well, what this is all about, right, is about the 4 great ages, right? In Igbo, an age is called Uga, right? And then we have 4 great ages, as explained in this book called After God is Dibia. You should actually purchase it. It's something that would really expose and open your mind to Igbo cosmology. It's one of the greatest books on Igbo cosmology that we have today. So the first is Ugaka, which is the primordial age. This is the age before form. In this era, there was no flesh, no body, no death. Existence was just pure consciousness, pure spirit. In our first episode, when we discuss origins, is what I probably would refer to as the singularity. Before the word became flesh, if that makes sense. So now beings existed at this point just as energy, in full communion with the source. Tradition describes this age as the age of non-duality and of profound wisdom, of complete mastery of universal law. So if you like, this is deep in the past. This is the dawn before the Big Bang, boom, and matter was created. The second is Ugachi. And if you know anything about Igbo cosmology, you know that Chi is that personal spark of the divine, the energy every human carries. This is why we bear names such as Chukwendu, Chioma, Chukuma. Ugachi is when the spirit took matter. Like I said in the first episode, the era of duality, when Chukwu, that used the word evolved. But yeah, when we went from the singularity to the duality from Chukwu to Chineke, right? So this is that era. I want you to pause, because for us Africans, this speaks to our great remembered past. This is the age of the founders. This is the age of Eri. This is the age of kinship of Nri. This is the age of when we had our deep spiritual backing and guidance that has led us to today. So I don't even know where to even start from. But this is the age that left us with Ibuku bronzes. This is the age of great metaphysics that were our forefathers. We had Dibias who were teleporting. We are so in alignment with, I would like to say, the fifth dimension, right? My father would say that back in the day they used to see spirits in the village, and they used to have this tradition where if a member of your family died, you don't go to the market in the village for days or weeks rather, their own time, so that the spirit could actually fully get into the spirit world. We were so close with the spirit. And for me, I would always say that you cannot be so close with the spirit if you're not morally, clean, or just have proper morals. You have to be such a good human being to kind of experience God and the spirits in that kind of manner, which is something that, is almost like tales by moonlight for us in this day and age, because like I always would cry about the moral decadence of this day and time that we're going through. And now the third is Uga Anwụ, which is the age of light, which is the age of the sun. Anwụ is light, Anwụ is sun. Anyanwụ means eye of the sun. Is one of the most revered forces in all of Igbo spirituality, the sun, right? The tradition says Uga Anwụ brings forth the children of light, cosmic-minded visionaries with profound solar intuition. It's called the age of the mind, the age of where insight, foresight, and awakened consciousness leads humanity. In my opinion, and in other people's opinion also, not just mine, we are living through the time of Uga Anwụ. It's almost like a time of reawakenness. We are opening our eyes, we are awakening our consciousness again, and that's the period that we are living in right now. And then the fourth is Ugazi, which is the age of decline, of confusion, of ignorance, of destruction, age where humanity forgets itself, forgets its source, forgets its wisdom, forgets its ancestors. And I think that's the age that we are coming out from. We're coming out from the age of Ugazi, and we're in the age of Uga Anwụ. And then hopefully, our eyes are going to be open, and then we are also going to find ourselves back in Ogachi, whereby we can now start living at one again, with our spirits, with the spirits, have clean moral lifestyle, have reverence for our ancestors, for what we believe in, go back to our own time. I would love to see an Africa where we go back to 4 market days, 4 days in a week, where we actually define who we are, define how we live, define our tradition, define the space we find ourselves, and then find a way to respectfully live with the rest of the world, being who we are, and then hopefully have the world respect us for who we are, how we choose to live. That's the age that I really hope that we are able to bring, right? Many custodians of these traditions, they say, look around you. Just look around you. A continent whose languages are dying. UNESCO lists hundreds of African languages as endangered. Igbo itself is all flagged, as a risk. It has been flagged as a risk earlier in the century. And people whose sacred objects sit in foreign museums. The British museums holds, hundreds of looted African works. Generations who can't order food in 3 foreign languages but can greet their grandmother in the Oh my God. Well, I mean, we can order food in other people's languages, but we can't even greet our grandparents in our own language. And this even reflects to me, myself, who loves so much of our culture, of our history, and I don't speak my language as well as I should, which is bad and sad to actually admit, but it's just the reality. And, we need to actually take that. I hope my kids get to know how to speak the language more than I do, so that the language doesn't die, with me in my own time. I hope I'm able to pass that down to my kids, and they do it better than I do, so that we can keep our language. And I hope most of you also who were born outside the southeastern part of Nigeria, most of us were born outside the southeastern part of Nigeria and didn't have people around us speak Igbo as much and as possible at home. We learned in English, friends speaking English, family speaking English. The Igbo we could pick up, we picked up, and at least we understand the language to a large extent and can speak it, to an okay extent. But that's not good enough. Okay is not good. Good is good. Great is better. And that's basically what we should be looking forward to. So props to everybody who helps keep our language going. Props to you, people who create educational materials for our kids to be able to learn the language so our language doesn't go extinct. And I hope that other African languages don't go extinct and we can also preserve that part of our identity. Now, what modern science says, right? Now, let's bring it to the laboratory. Because our ancestors' relationship, with redeeming time was not superstition. It was their own way of seeing time, which modern science today, is quietly proven. In 2017, the Nobel Prize in Medicine went to three scientists, Jeffrey Hall, Michael Rosbash, and Michael Young, for discovering the molecular machinery of the sorry, I'll have to read this part because some of the words you use here are new to me. Okay, yeah, so we are given a Nobel Prize for discovering the molecular machinery of circadian rhythm. That's the internal clock inside our cells. Their work confirmed something really profound, that our bodies do not run on Gregorian time. It actually runs on light and darkness, on the sun, basically. And when we fight that internal clock, night shifts, artificial light, social jet lag, research links this disruption to sleep disorders, metabolic problems, and effects on mood and heart health. In other words, our biology never signed the contract with the mechanical clock. So when we talk about disalignment that we currently live through today, science has proven it. And it's important that we bring this up so that we kind of understand that the calendar our ancestors used were anchored on the moon, seasons, daylight. It was pointed in the same direction as our body was pointed. Everything was natural. Basically saying that our forefathers were superior to everything that we know today. But these are the people that we don't revere. These are people we don't respect. These are people that we don't want to remember. We see as diabolical. We see as primitive. I just hope that this episode especially is going to kind of change that narrative. If you know someone who has this kind of opinions, please share this video with the person. Beg the person, please watch, screen record, a certain part that kind of opens their mind to, what this topic is really about and who our forefathers were. So that respect is there. I'm not telling you to throw away your phone or throw away your calendar. I'm just asking you to be more to be more uncomfortable with asking some of these questions, like why does the farmer with no watch seem to have more time than the executive who has, a smartwatch? Maybe when we answer this kind of question, we really understand who does time really belong to, the ancients or to us. Time is money, time is money. Funny times. Well, the hope here is that we get to see and understand time in a different way. And we get to understand how our forefathers saw time. And we get to appreciate them for the way they saw time. And then maybe in our personal lives, even though we live in a world that still operates on the Gregorian calendar, we can start operating differently. Some days, because when we pray in Igbo spirituality, we tend to pray with our own, ancient days. So we pray with Tataboafo, and when we pour libations, we say, we say those days. Or in our manzu, you would say, there's Nzu is part of the chalk that we use in prayer. We say manzu and Ekenure and Afonanko. We pray in that language. We use the language of the ancestors to communicate because that's what they understand. We don't tell them today is Monday, let my day be. Let my Monday be great. Let this new week of 7 days be fantastic. No, we still try to maintain our market days as the forefathers would do and as they will understand. Now, before we close, permit me, a few seconds to talk about this because this matters. We spent this whole episode talking about time. So here's the hard truth about time and business in Africa today. If your business does not exist online, then for millions of potential customers, your business does not exist at all. This is why we built GoDigital to help African businesses show up in the digital marketplace with the same excellence our ancestors brought to their markets on Eke and Nkwo market days. And if you've been putting off getting your website because you think it's too expensive, too technical, or it takes too long for it to be done, hear this. We have something for you. It's called GoWeb. GoWeb gives your business a complete professional website between 7 to 14 days. It doesn't take months. We'll get back to you within 7 to 14 days with your website. Should be done online, completed, designed properly, built properly, and ready to start working for you and putting you out there for millions to see. Our grandmother's market days run on 4-day cycle. Your business can be online in 3.5 weeks or of their own time, or not of our own time, just so that you have an idea. So just visit GoDigital.com, or you can go straight to GoDigital.com/GoWeb today, and we have a promo going on. So please check it out. Go get your website. Very affordable, 7 to 14 days. The market has moved online, so it's time for your business to join it. Thank you very much once again for joining me on another journey through history, memory, and the questions that refuse to stay behind. If this episode moves you, it moved something in you, please share, like, comment, and if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep seeking wisdom, and remember, not everything forgotten is lost. I'm Ralu Chukuma, and this is Through the Veil. Thank you.